Broadcasting Studio 24 in California, the entertainment capital of the world, featuring Dr. Dwight, Rogers, and Tony G. It's the Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks, Weekly Recess. And now, your host, Jeremy Brooks.
Welcome to the Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks, Weekly Recess. We are live in Studio 24 at Brooks Broadcasting, and this is episode 21. Now, if you did not know it, this week on Tuesday, it was Random Acts of Kindness Day, which is celebrated once a year, but it also coincides with a week or two called Random Acts of Kindness Week. And so that is what this is. This is Random Acts of Kindness Week. And so schools across the nation, they're encouraging students to write positive cards, to include, someone new, to speak encouragement, to try to pass on and to be more empathetic. And so a lot of great positive things happening, but it's actually a direct response to something that's much heavier. It's because kindness is the counterculture to really bullying. And so, we have viewers in over 47 countries, and this conversation, it's not local. It's really a global conversation. In fact, we've got data that we'll look at today. We're going to discuss bullying. That's going to be the main topic of the show, again, connected to Random Acts of Kindness Day and Week, of course. But when we looked at the data that we're going to report out to you tonight, bullying is a problem not just, in America. It's really across the country, across the world. It's in many countries. And so we'll discuss that on the show tonight. But again, we're going to devote the entire episode to bullying tonight. And we have on our show our amazing senior education contributors. Want to say hi real quick. Dr. Rogers, excited to have you back in the studio.
I'm excited to be back. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show. Sit back, relax, have your favorite cup of whatever you like to drink, and enjoy.
Awesome. And of course, the amazing, the one and only Tony G.
Thank you, Jeremy. Let me just start out by saying in this podcast, bullying is not cool right out of the gate. I'm a comic, but I just hate it. So I'm ready to talk about it.
You're like total opposite. I mean, instead of making people cry, you love to make people laugh, right?
I got a tattoo right here. Okay, Jeremy. Let me just see if I can take this off. I can't take it off, Jeremy, because it's not a button. My wife didn't tell me this part. Okay, we're taking it off now. Old-fashioned like it. Here we go. I got my Chuck Norris shirt on. My tattoo says "Be Bright."
Oh,
okay. We'll keep going.
There we go. Hey, to be continued, right?
To be continued.
We want to know more about this tattoo situation.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about it.
Yes. All right. So, again, there's the headlines. The data is showing that bullying is rising in many places. We'll discuss that, why that's the case. We're going to do some reporting on that. But it is impacting not just learning, it's impacting mental health and school culture. And then also, there's a lot of other impacts beyond that as well. So we're going to discuss those things on the show tonight. Before we do, though, we need to find out how things are going because we had a little bit of some time off with Dr. Rogers. You did some traveling, Chicago. You also were speaking, I think, recently, too, at a university. Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Last week, I had an honor to attend the NABE conference, which is the National Bilingual Education Conference. So we had an opportunity to have some parents attend with me, and we had attended some workshops and just saw how bilingual education affects the country. So even when we talk about bullying, we look at what can we do in different languages to make sure that they have access to the information. Because you get frustrated sometimes when you go into a place and you don't understand what's going on because the language is different. So these workshops that are provided for parents, educators, and or anyone who has an interest to learn about just how do you communicate with other people. And that was brings people together versus tearing them apart. So I did that. And then the week prior.
By the way, national conference, that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you hear about the state ones are cool enough, but like you got to go to Chicago to the national one.
Absolutely. And it was fantastic. It was
By the way,
phenomenal.
real quick, Dr. Danya Ball says, hello, fellows.
Hello, Dr. Ball. Hey,
Dr. Ball.
you were right. It was 10 degrees out there. It was freezing, but I was prepared. I was prepared. I had a jacket on that had heaters in it.
So hold on. Having her on the show actually prepared you for Chicago?
Yes, thank you very much, because I had no idea how cold it was. It was freezing, but I loved it.
But that says a lot, though, too, because you're from Brooklyn,
Right.
where it snows
Right.
and it gets cold. I mean, this is California, right?
Right.
We're pretty lucky out here in California. But, I mean, how did it feel compared to New York?
Well, I haven't lived in New York in many years. I lived in Southern California, where I haven't even owned a coat. So when I went out there, it reminded me of being in New York, and I didn't like it at all. I ran back here.
But although we do love Chicago, and
Chicago's great. Loved it.
yeah.
They had great food. I went and I saw the tallest building that they have in Chicago with the glass
what building
floor.
is that?
I forgot the name of the building. I forgot the name of the building. But it was a great building. It showed the historic landmarks of Chicago and a lot of history. Beautiful place. The people were amazing, and the food, magnificent.
Did you get pizza, deep dish?
I had deep dish pizza. I wanted to bring some back, but it didn't last.
How good was it?
It was magnificent. It wasn't like New York pizza, but it was still good. It was still good.
Yeah. Was it called the Willis Tower?
The Willis Tower, yes.
Yeah.
It was the Willis Tower.
You want to know how I knew this?
How did you know?
Control room.
Thank you.
Hey, we're transparent on this show, okay? I don't know it all, but we're looking out. They're looking out in the control
room. It was the
room.
Willis Tower.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is the weather was so beautiful sometimes. The sun was out. It was a little warm. But when you go in between the buildings like the Willis Tower, there's no sun, right? So then the weather drops like 25 degrees.
Wow.
And it's freezing in between those buildings.
That is amazing. I have heard that in Chicago, it can be sunny and warm, and the next day snowing or very cold. Interesting how sudden, it's like Florida, by the way.
Okay.
It could be sunny and nice in Florida, then all of a sudden you have out of the blue, just a huge a huge downpour where sidewalks are flooding, and then, it downpours super hard for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then it goes away and the sun's out again.
It didn't snow.
The climates are interesting.
Right. It didn't snow, but it was very cold. And it was nice seeing the snow still on the ground, though. There was snow everywhere.
Wow.
I went and saw the bean, and if you didn't catch it, I had a little video that I kind of said, hey, you know what? I gave a shout out to our show.
What?
In front of the bean.
We got to see this.
Yes, in front of the bean.
Did you see this?
I have not. I've been doing a lot of comedy, and I try to keep up with the socials. So shout out to Dr. Ball again, doing her thing. She's working out even in the cold weather.
Yes, she is.
You've been working out.
Yes.
See,
Absolutely. Keeping up. Keeping up.
And so, anyways, but
you guys know my workout routine. It's not good.
What is it? I don't know it.
Well, it's I'll just we'll be
You
even
walk
more
the dogs
transparent.
now. You walk the dogs.
Not
now.
quite yet, but I'll be even more
I'm trying
transparent.
to help you.
I know. It's terrible, but we have cookies in the studio, right? That's my workout. Is
I was
lifting,
trying not to tell that part.
lifting, right? And you guys have seen the cookies, right?
crumble,
In the back?
You saw
Yes.
the
Yeah.
crumbles.
Yes.
And you know what? The diet crumbles tonight.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, I mean, because I've
It
been
is what it is.
I've been working out and doing bench presses of cookies and ice creams and all the
Can I
bad
be
stuff.
honest? You look great.
You
for
do
a
look-
guy
you look great.
who
Oh, thank
does
you.
that.
Yeah, you look
Thank
great.
You
You look wonderful.
I wouldn't think that when I
Yeah.
saw you.
Well, I appreciate that. It's very kind of
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, no one needs to bully.
No,
right?
Yeah.
we're being kind.
We're the example.
We are modeling what it looks like.
Be
to
bright,
be kind.
guys. Even though I can't read it on my tattoo, it says it.
Well, and then I want to come back to you in a second too, because I wanted to find out about UOP. You're at UOP,
Yes.
but
Go ahead,
Tony, you had okay, so you had some comedy, but you also you actually promoted an event.
So this is possibly the first time. At least, hey, I might as well say it because you know what? If it hasn't been documented, it's the first time Manteca. We had an open mixed mic.
Oh, man.
All right.
What is that? Actually?
It's the Triple M music,
Okay.
magic,
Okay.
all right, and many other acts.
Nice.
Like stand-up comedy.
Nice.
So we had several comics, like professional level, and then we had a guy named who I just was introduced to. I shouldn't say guy; he's a young man. His name is Miles Lima. Okay, and he's blind, and you know what? I swear to you, he's got that Stevie Wonder like quality, and he went up there and just killed it.
Wow!
Oh,
and he's going to be actually playing the national anthem or singing the national anthem, and playing keyboard.
Was he a musician, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I just met him at the mic. He showed up and just cooked, and he just crushed it. Right. So he's going to be doing the national anthem at the Giants game in September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was just one of a few.
So our director in the back in the control room apparently has heard of him, and he's actually done some musical acts with someone else we know who is a relative named Mapawana, who's a musician.
Okay.
And so they actually performed, I think, together. I don't know if it was this.
Isn't that crazy? Like,
it's amazing. Small world.
It's like Field of Dreams. If you build it,
they will come.
I do have, by the way, a proposal for you. So what I was thinking is I could maybe come on, if you'll allow me, and I could do two things. I've got magic and comedy. Because here's what I'll do. I'll get up on stage, and I'm going to make some things disappear. Cookies, bags of chips.
I knew that was
donuts,
coming.
Right?
I had a feeling that was coming.
Hey, it's a double feature.
I did it.
Yeah.
So that right there is already, I mean, you just kind of told it to everybody, but do it again. Hey, that's an opener right there.
There we go.
I love it.
Awesome.
What's
and if
the
there's
magic
pizza,
trick?
well, that's the magic is I can make some pizza disappear.
Hey,
Right?
I can make
So
your magic is funny.
Yeah, breadsticks.
Hey.
All right. We're getting off track already. I wanted to get back to you because UOP, tell us about that.
So,
you spoke about literacy.
Right. It's Black History Month. So again, happy Black History Month for everybody.
We got it right there.
Right there. The University of Pacific invited me to, promote my book, but also be a panel member to talk about early childhood literacy, and the importance of it. And we had an array of wonderful guests there to discuss what we can do to educate parents, to become stronger leaders and educators, and also to just how do we connect kids back to reading? Like there is a missing link now where kids don't want to read as much because everything is so quick. So how do we get kids to be great readers? Because sometimes they don't understand the long-term effects of not knowing how to read. So we had a great time talking about it, and I was so honored. So again, University of Pacific, thank you very much for having me there. I appreciate you. It was a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yeah. And yeah, what a huge honor for our viewers around the world that don't know this. University of Pacific is California's oldest university, private university. Amazing opportunity to go be able to speak at that institution with such an amazing panel of people. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I was looking at some of the names on the panel, and it looked to me like, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but George Lucas has a wife. I don't know. Was that his wife?
That was his wife.
Look at this.
Hey,
Man.
You're palling around
with George Lucas's wife.
Lucas's wife.
Yeah. I saw that. I didn't know for sure.
I didn't speak to her.
Yeah.
It was in passing.
It was in passing.
It was in
Wow.
passing. It was a quick high and go.
Well, and if you didn't know this either, a little bit of local history here. George Lucas is from our area. He's from Modesto, California. And so he's got roots here. Went to MJC, went to, I think, Downey High School. Those from Modesto. You correct me if I'm wrong. But
you are correct.
Yeah, a lot of local history there. So very cool. But what were some of was it all about early literacy, or were there other topics?
No, there are a lot of different topics that focus on just student education from different angles. We talked about just how do we get communities back engaging into the school systems, and what can we do to remove some of those barriers. We also talked about just our duties as a civic engagement leader,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we'll talk about like Jesse Jackson later on, you know, because again, he was not a politician. He was a regular citizen, and he was able to do so much. And we forget that, you know, the power of the voice, which is the name of my new book, Your Voice is Your Power, coming soon, just a cheap plug. And being able to help parents and help others remember and remind them of the strength of their voice and strength of unity.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into the topics here soon, but I did want to talk to you about both of those things real quick. You know, yeah, so your book, that's amazing. You're writing, is it a sequel to Change the Narrative?
It's a pullout. So when you read Change the Narrative, part of what's in Change the Narrative talks about my journey as a student and a child and how I was embarrassed and didn't like to speak out in public because of my speech impediment. But then, you know, we talk about the bullying part, right? And how they were bullying me, you know, because I spoke differently than other people. And so I didn't want to talk. And then I had to go to my parents and talk to them about it. And they said they would help. So they took me to a speech therapist. And the speech therapist was beautiful, wonderful person, and really engaged me and helped me overcome my fear of speaking out. And after we had some exercises, we learned, and we'll talk more about that. But then I was able to champion with my inner being and learn how to just speak, you know, with pride and dignity. And here I am today on the Jeremy Brooks Show, you know. Speaking.
Yeah. Hey, not an easy thing to do, by the way.
Not an easy thing to do, right.
Not just that. What's your job again? You are.
I know. I'm the Director of Equity, Diversity, and Family Engagement.
I think you did all right.
Yeah.
I did okay.
And you've probably given quite a few speeches, graduation speeches as a
I
former
was
principal.
I was the keynote speaker for my graduation when I received my doctorate, you know, so in the book, I talk about that, how I went from not being able to speak anywhere to being on one of the grandest stages of my life, being able to speak, you know, with pride. So, yeah, you know, it takes a village, and we have to talk about that bullying because it really had an effect on me.
And kindness, right?
And kindness,
and
exactly,
kindness.
because it took kindness to overcome the bullying.
Yeah.
You like how that works, right?
Empathy.
Yeah. Hey, we're talking about that too tonight.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to this topic.
Yeah. And then also, before we move on, I did want to talk to you too about, it is Black History Month. It's February, and we're going to talk about equity on our next show, a little bit more diversity, equity.
Right.
There's a conference coming up too that AXA's going to be doing. We're going to have an amazing guest on the show.
Right. Miss Tracy Noriega. Yes, Miss Tracy Noriega. If you do not know who she is, tune in next week. She is a wonderful, wonderful person. She's director over at AXA, over Equity, and she's going to bring it. So please tune in next week and bring a friend.
Exactly. We're so excited about that. Also, the one other thing, too, you know, we lost a huge icon this week.
Yes.
A civil rights icon.
Yes.
You know, he was right there alongside Dr. Martin Luther King.
Right. He was a protege. You know, he was a protege of Dr. King's, actually. And so he learned, you know, his nonviolent approach through Dr. King's teachings. And again, he wasn't a politician, you know, being a reverend and being someone who was able to just do the work that he did just because of his beliefs. And, you know, all of his wonderful sayings, I am somebody. He said, you know, I may be young, but I'm somebody. I may be poor, but I'm somebody. I may make mistakes, but I am somebody. So instilling that hope in people, you know, just gives people a belief. You know, we need people like that. And, you know, it's funny, though. We are those people, you know, because back then he was our age or younger. And so we are those people. And this show is part of that advocacy of being able to speak up and help people recognize their truth and their dreams.
Oh, I love that. And he did run for president, by the way.
He did.
He
Twice.
Yeah.
He ran for president twice. Again, building that belief system, you know, and keep hope alive, right? Keep hope alive. So he has some really, you know, great sayings, you know, keep hope alive, you know, and up with hope, down with dope, you know, all of those, you know, counter narratives to dope and drugs at that particular time. He also saved some hostages. Remember that? You know, he saved in Afghanistan. He saved the hostages, and he was a part of the negotiating team that helped bring hostages.
I didn't know that. He was.
I think that was back in 1984, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look at my my dates to be sure. It's about 1984, 1989.
During the
somewhere
Carter
around
administration.
there. Yeah, and he negotiated saving American hostages.
I had no idea that he was involved in that.
And one thing I learned was, like, and I'll remember, it just one of those things, right? Is I wasn't aware as a young kid, but I found out later, is that he actually had been there with, Dr. Martin Luther King when he was killed.
Yeah.
So much that
He was on the balcony.
He had his blood on him, right? And it's crazy because you see how, like, just in anything, you're focused, Martin Luther King, and the movement, but you think about that, right? Martin Luther King, but we forget this is a person that was like, if he was King Arthur, this was Lancelot. Right. And his story doesn't get the same. And again, everyone's flawed. I'm sure people will say, well, what about this and that? But here's the thing. Hey, he was there, right?
Right.
And he believed in what he did, just like you believed in yourself.
Absolutely.
Right. It shows what could you do when you believe in yourself. Right. Great story.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, and, if you don't know much about him, I bet younger generations, probably don't know much about him. You got to look him up. Jesse Jackson. Yeah.
Yes. Real American hero.
Yep. He really is.
Absolutely.
Really is. All right. So we are going to talk about tonight the big topic of bullying, and we have some things to report too, to discuss. The bell is ringing, and the weekly recess starts now. So kind of looking at, some of this, we're going to get into our feature segment, and I want to just share a little bit, and then, you have some stuff to report, Dr. Rogers, and then I think, Tony G, you got some stuff as well. We've looked into this. And so tonight we're talking about something that affects nearly every school system in the world, and it really does, and the data is going to back that up. And so I do want to say this up front. We are in 47 countries around the world, and this is not a problem in one school setting, in one area. And your school, where your children might go, might be different. Maybe they're doing a good job of tackling bullying with positive behavior interventions and supports, PBAS or other systems. And so this isn't, of course, the case for everybody, but this is just kind of in general what we're seeing globally, that bullying is on the rise. There are concerns, and it's not just in one place. It's throughout the world we're seeing concerns about bullying in schools. So I just want to put that out there before we really dive into this. And Dr. Rogers, again, this is a global youth issue. You had something to report on this too.
Yeah,
you want to share a little bit?
Absolutely. So, across the country, bullying is the number one issue that schools deal with. In New York, for example, legislators are pushing the Jacob's law, which would require schools to notify parents whenever their child is involved in a verified bullying incident, whether they're a victim or the accused aggressor. So that's huge. When we think about bullying, we think about how that impacts young people. We have to understand, going back to that whole child and whole community, because there are some other issues that child may be going through that triggers, something that happens. And for the aggressor, how did they learn how to bully? So we'll talk about that. Supporters say parents have the right to know immediately. Critics warn that mandatory notifications could create complications in certain family situations. Because again, when we're looking at family situations, we're asking, what is the family history behind what's going on there? Because they're going to react differently. Our families have different lived experiences, so they may react. We may have good intentions, but the impact of these laws, we have to ask ourselves, is this a good thing, or is this something that's going to be detrimental for our young people?
And then there's also one more law in Virginia that they were looking at, right? And I don't know, I don't think Jacob's law has been passed yet, but it's on the books, or it's something that they're looking at in New York. But there's this other one, Autumn's Law. What did you find out about that?
Well, they named it after a 10-year-old student who died by suicide following alleged bullying. They're proposing something even stronger, classifying certain severe bullying or cyberbullying cases as criminal offenses and requiring law enforcement involvement. So the question becomes, is bullying a school discipline issue? Is it a criminal justice issue or a family communication issue? Like, where does that lie? Because we deal in at different levels of bullying. And so whose responsibility is it?
And I want to get Tony G in on this too. We'll start with him. We'll discuss this a little bit, and then we'll come back.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your reporting and for looking out and researching those stories and bringing that to us. Tony G, you've worked directly with students, every day. If bullying automatically triggers parent notification, as in the case of Jacob's Law, or even criminal consequences, do you think that could deter behavior, bad behavior, or does it risk kind of escalating conflict into something bigger than it needs to be? And by the way, if you're at home too and you're hearing these questions, please feel free to, comment, and we do try to answer those and address them over the air. And don't forget to like, by the way, the episode. People always tell people to like it. I never do that. Right. So please like it and subscribe. But feel free to comment as well. But Tony G, again, does this deter bad behavior or make things maybe bigger?
Well, I don't know. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had in every, household, every place. I grew up in the age of bullying. That was just, the 80s were rough. I was Manteca. I've been here my whole life. You guys are talking about Chicago and all this stuff. I've been here, and although I know it's different everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But growing up, being Afro-Hispanic, descent, and having darker skin, it was rough, and I was bullied a lot, and that's why you latch on to comedy, like roasting. That's why that show Kill Tony resonates. It's kind of like the anti-bullying. Well, I'm going to say this, but if it was that simple, I would say, oh, that's great, just go to comedy. But it's not that simple. There's more involved. There's mental health involved with bullying. What I noticed personally in the classroom is like a lot of kids that possibly were on the spectrum, they would be bullied, or sometimes they would interpret the bullying that to be over. So then you have to come in, right, as the teacher or the case manager, and decipher, is this really bullying? And that's a tough job for every vice principal.
Because there is a definition.
Right. I was just getting ready to talk about that. We have to kind of talk about what's the definition of that.
You have to continually put it out there, anti-bullying stuff. But then also we got to find avenues to how do we, because all this is just void of empathy. Kids that have, everyone that hurts, my mom used to say, hurt people. Right?
Yeah.
So there's the job of empathy of the administrators and everybody. Hey, we got to love on these kids, right? We got to do what we can to help, because again, I guarantee if you do that, because I saw that the more empathy I showed.
That's a solution right there.
I just gave
That's
it. Right
one of the
there,
big
guys.
solutions.
I retired. I gave the formula.
Yeah.
It's all about empathy in the classroom. Your kids will in turn, it just spills. I've seen it happen.
Right. When we talk about defining it, getting that information out to parents on what exactly is bullying, because as an administrator, oftentimes we see an incident take place and then they say, oh, my child's being bullied. Well, under the law and under education code, there are definitions that describe what bullying is. And so educating parents on what that is. And then,
because not all parents know, right?
They don't know.
So how do you, if you're a parent out there, how do you distinguish between, this incident happened to my child at school today or yesterday, they're telling me about this, versus, okay, is this a
repeat
bullying
pattern?
and is this escalated in importance and reaching out to the school officials? But how do you define it? Like what you said, pattern.
Right. So we look at what the education code and how it defines it, and having a repeat pattern of whether it be verbal, physical, or anything, whatever that causes harm. But it has to have a pattern that's developed over time, right? So when there's one incident that happens and they say, oh, that's bullying, you say, well, it's not okay that it happened, but that's not how it's categorized. And then there are different interventions that we can use to kind of get to that problem and deal with it. They have restorative practices, for example. Restorative practices addresses the aggressor as well as the alleged victim or the alleged aggressor also. Because like Tony G just said, hurt people hurt people. And these are kids. And so if a kid is causing harm to someone, was that kid harmed?
Yeah.
Because now they are repeating a cycle or something that they've seen or they've encountered. So we need to provide them with some resources, some help also. So again, it becomes a community thing, and just how do we build all of the kids up, not just the alleged victim.
Yeah. And so really, kind of what you're saying here, correct me if I'm wrong, is that a lot of times there's a pattern. So could it be that a child is bullied, at school, if there's like one incident that happens one day, say, a child shoved in line, waiting to go into a classroom, for example, is that bullying? Or versus, is it happening every day? Is it ongoing? Is it, pushing every day, maybe in line? How do we distinguish those? Further, there's parents out there that don't know. Right. And then before we move on to, in a little bit, remind me, Dr. Rob had some information to share, and I'm going to talk about that over the comments too, because it's very important. And Dr. Danya Ball mentioned something too. Thank you guys for commenting, and please keep the comments coming, but I'll mention those here in a minute. But back to what I had asked, how do we distinguish those? If you're a parent, you're out there, your child is pushed in line, maybe they're in kindergarten, or maybe they're pushed every day in line by a certain student.
Right. Well, when we look at an incident that happens, we can kind of just scale back a little bit and look at life. If this happens just one time, and was their intent, like what circumstances surrounds that situation? Was it intentional? Did they do it, with some malicious intent behind it, or was it just an accident? Do they know the person was a retaliation? So there's more information that's needed. So at that point, collecting that information is important before making any decision on defining it as bullying or anything else. And then going back to, is there a pattern repeating going on with this? Was the student spoken to? Because maybe they didn't know that they did it, So having that conversation, and then after the conversation, are they continuing to do it, or did a student say, "Hey, I don't like you doing that"? Were they playing at the? So again, there's a lot of information that goes into defining what that situation is really like versus what the perception of it is.
Yeah, good point right there. And Tony G, we're
Kofi, you talk really well for a guy with a speech impediment.
Thank you very much.
Hey, was that kind of him?
That was very kind of you, Tony. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Now, just being silly, but again, it's all about, again, back to the empathy. Bullying, I look at it like, again, because my field of work is like a lot of time my kids were the bullies. Okay. And it wasn't until I embraced the bully as the teacher, I saw change.
And addressed it, right?
It.
Yeah.
But if there's no, you're always going to go through a disciplinary action. That's just standard, easy. You don't even have to make what do I do? It's just done. Here's what the kids are screaming for. Are you still going to care about me?
Right.
Are you still going to love me?
Yeah.
Right. Look what I did. If you can do that, I'm telling you, you will change lives. I've seen it.
Discipline does not have to hurt.
I've seen kids on the verge of going to jail. But again, we had them, a team of good people. Obviously, I was included.
And you turned some lives around, huh?
Dude, it's addicting, know.
Because it's humanity. It's putting the humanity back into it. That's what restorative practice is about. It's about maintaining that dignity and allowing those students to really get to the root of what's going on. And when you put an alleged victim and an alleged aggressor in a room together and have parents talk at the same time, you find out a lot of information that can repair and restore those relationships. And you want to get to the root of it so it doesn't continue to happen over and over again. And that's how we can do that. But, what I find sometimes with that is a lot of people are afraid to have those courageous conversations. I want to take a plug real quick. Dr. Nancy Dome, she wrote a book called Compassionate Dialogue. and it's not courageous conversation, it's compassionate dialogue, because you have to have that compassion and like Tony G talked about, that empathy when you have those conversations. But people want to be heard.
Yeah.
People want to be validated. People want there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs met. So when you meet them where they are and provide them with those tools, then you can uncover some truths that can help them, get to what's really going on.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well said. I do want to get to a couple comments because
Absolutely.
we had some comments from Dr.
Rob.
Dr. Rob, yeah, Papa
Love you,
Rob,
Dr. Rob.
And he mentioned the Uniform Complaint Compliance Procedure, I think is how you pronounce it. And if you're a parent or a guardian out there and you do have concerns regarding bullying, you can go to your district's website. Oftentimes, also, I think the school site website, and there's a place at the very bottom of the website or somewhere on there. It's called UCP,
right.
Uniform Compliance Procedure, and you could actually reach out and you can make sure to contact somebody to file a complaint regarding bullying if there's those concerns, especially if you think or believe that they're not being addressed. And somebody will get to that at that central office, and believe me, it does get addressed.
Right.
Because if you're the site administrator, you're going to get that report.
Right. At some schools, some districts, they have anonymous tip lines where you can call the tip line, and then they can have an anonymous tip, and then again it gets addressed that way as well. So there are always, not always, but there are oftentimes vehicles in which you can report these things, and just in case, they can look into it and they can have an opportunity to just uncover some things. And you know what really helps out in this situation? The phone policy that came out. The phone policy that came out in California that has restrictions on students using phones in the classroom has helped bullying die down a whole lot.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very thankful for the governor for putting forth that bill.
Yeah, that was huge. It wasn't. I had to deal without that bill. That was rough.
Meet me in the bathroom.
You can tell. Look at him. He looks worn.
This is where the surgery was from. The incident.
Meet me in the bathroom.
Yep. Oh yeah.
She tore as a nom.
Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about different practices to try to address these concerns. A lot of what you discussed are restorative practices. There's also, though, and Dr. Danya Ball, thank you for commenting. She mentioned this. There's also, besides restorative practices, trauma-informed practices,
Absolutely.
which is kind of reminding me of what Tony G's talking about too. And by the way, I did actually appear, just a little plug here, on the Classroom Narratives podcast with Dr. Joseph Weisler and out of New York, and his episode featuring me was released yesterday. And one of the things that we discuss is leadership through service and presence, but also one of the major topics and themes of his podcast addresses, trauma and trauma-informed practices. For those of you, don't know, he's from Parkland, Florida.
What's trauma-informed practices, Jeremy?
And so what I was going to say is that there's lots of different things that we can do besides the restorative practices. We can utilize trauma-informed practices as well, which, again, that's that approach, that mindset of, instead of looking at the student as, you did something wrong and, you need a punishment, we're going to try to work with students individually to try to find out, what is the cause of that. And there are students that, for a variety of reasons, they're experiencing different levels of trauma, and they're bringing those, unfortunately, to the classroom, and those traumas are manifesting in behavior and incidents. And so, we, sometimes prescribe a punishment, loss of recess, loss of privileges. Are we really going to fix that, right? Are we going to get to the root of the cause there? And so you have things like coordination of services teams, right? Cost, which could be utilized. There's lots of other practices and interventions that can be put in place. But we talk about that on that podcast too. So check that out. I will make sure to share a link for that. And then there's going to be a part 2 of that episode. But thank you, Dr. Danya Ball, for sharing that comment.
Dr. Ball.
Yeah. So I want to move on because we're still talking about bullying. That's the main topic. But I want to get to a couple of other things because Tony G, you've looked at some of this too. There's some data, right? And there's some data that you're going to do some reporting on. Can you tell us about that?
Well, this is an official Tony G report, so I am. And here, why this debate matters. International data shows more than half of students report experiencing some form of bullying. Reports have increased in recent years. Students who report being bullied are significantly more likely to struggle academically. And here's something else that stands out. In some places, students' reports of bullying are high, but not all school leaders identify it as a severe issue in their buildings. That perception gap matters because if adults don't see it, students may feel no one is listening. And that's the story of my life in the classroom.
Well, thank you for looking at that too, and for reporting that. And then there's a little bit more too that I wanted to share too, because I wanted to follow up. And there's a report. It's the TIMSS 2023 report. I don't know if you had a chance to see that when you were doing the research for this, but it's international data that shows trends in, math and science, but it also looks at bullying across 21 middle-income countries. So not just the United States, but all over Europe, all over the world. And as Tony G mentioned, this backs it up. Bullying is on the rise among fourth graders. 63% of boys experience bullying, and 55% of girls reported it. So it seems like, again, at that younger age, there is a little bit of a gender gap there in terms of reported incidents. Boys seem to be maybe experiencing a little bit more at that younger age, or at least that's what's being reported. And then among eighth graders, it's a little bit more evened out, but 68% of boys and 64% of girls say they're experiencing that. I mean, think about that for a minute, though. That's almost 70% of students in eighth grade are reporting that they're experiencing bullying. And there's a couple of students, too. You mentioned a couple of laws, and those are real students that lost their lives, and they were bullied, right? This is really affecting our students, not just, socially, emotionally, not just academically, but also in a lot of other ways. And part of it, when we look at what's going on in the data, students are reporting that it's not just, at school anymore. This, it used to be to the bus stop, and Tony G, you talked about living through the 80s, right? Which is this big era of bullying. And, when you compare like maybe our experiences as a different generation growing up in schools, what it was like for us versus this newer generation, I mean, what we're seeing is that there are higher rates of mental health concerns among our young people, among our children. And one of the big key things is it's not just stopping at the bus stop anymore. The bullying is following students home. Right. It's on social media. It's all over. So it's kind of surrounding students in a different way than what we experienced. So the other thing I wanted to ask too, and I wanted to go over here to Dr. Rogers, is do you think that, is the bullying, because Tony G talked about being in the 80s, experiencing it. Is it maybe that it's more on the rise, or is it that we're seeing more reports of it? There's just more awareness of it. There's more, I guess.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It's the same. I don't think it's any different, to be honest. I think that there's just
except for the cell phones, though.
Except right.
Yeah.
I think it's just more. It's highlighted more. When I grew up, like Tony G talked about, and living in Brooklyn, bullying was you could walk down the street and you would have a big puffy goose down coat on, and somebody would come around and they would take a razor and slice your coat, and the feathers would come out.
That's not just bullying, that's assault.
For no reason. They didn't cut you, they cut the jacket. You
Yeah.
have to sit there, and because they didn't have one, right?
Wow. Yeah.
They would do that. They would snatch the chain off if you had a chain. It was just constant harassment. I wrote in my book, and I talked about how I was, called many different names, whatever, over and over again. So bullying happened. If you remember TV shows like Fonzie and Happy Days and stuff, they put kids in the lockers and put them in trash cans. So it's always been there. But I think that now, there are more examples of it.
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell. All of these TV shows were highlighting bullying and, kind of glamorizing it a little bit. But now we see that
what you just said there, that's a key.
Mm-hmm.
It did sort of glamorize it, didn't it?
Right. You looked at the corny kids like Urkel. You said, oh, so he got picked on or whatever, because he was a little different. And you see, real life, Urkel.
And
like
Steve Urkel, he was from, what was the name of that show? Family Matters?
Family Matters, right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So you look at a lot of these TV shows and you look at a lot of the world and you ask yourself, where did it come from? It's always been here. It's just we look at it differently.
By the way, it wasn't just, the kids at school. It was the uncle, it was a police officer.
Right.
He'd get off
Carl
work.
Winslow.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Who was the uncle?
Hey,
What was his name?
And if you, I don't know his name, but they bullied him. The cops were getting bullied. What a stereotype, right? He was like eating donuts. Says, now I'm getting off track, but I'm just going back. You brought up Carl Winslow.
Yeah,
And,
Carl Winslow, yeah.
That's also in Bruce Willis, Die Hard.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking of, right? So that was just the element. You made fun of everything. I watched wrestling back in the day, and there's a lot of inappropriate things they said.
Right.
And
so was it just kind of a broadder part of the culture?
It was.
Yes.
And I think we
Yes.
just accepted it, but didn't really understand the impact it had on the victims. But when we talk about victims, we also talk about school shootings. Like when you look at the people who, the kids who did the school shootings, what
Like
was
Columbine?
the bottom line? Yeah. Columbine. What did they say? Oh, they were bullied, right? Doesn't give them any right to do what they did,
Right.
but it says they were bullied so much that they just turned to violence. I am not excusing that at all or whatever, but when you have hurt people, what happens, Tony?
you hurt people.
They hurt people, so uncovering these things, not to glamorize them anymore, and to really put forth some initiatives and that can get to the root of really restoring humanity back to where it belongs and giving kids hope. Going back to Jesse Jackson, keeping hope alive and providing students with safe havens and just spaces to go. We have so much technology and the availability to provide platforms where they can feel safe, feel seen, and go to get resources. We just have to do more of that and spread more of that love and those words, and then that's what we'll see, I believe.
So in doing that, I think you talked about a solution earlier, empathy, right?
That's the secret sauce.
But what you just said too, I think we're really kind of, I think as we discuss this, we're kind of coming up with a solution too. It's really culture, right?
Absolutely.
It's changing the culture around, looking at our perceptions of bullying, and is it something that should be glamorized, which it was maybe previously under previous generations, and we see how bad it was.
Right.
Versus creating more awareness, more compassion, more kindness, and trying to create those cultures. And this is key, especially for leaders of school districts, leaders of sites, leaders of classrooms or teachers, right? But also students too,
right?
Because students have a responsibility here to, treat each other with kindness. If you do see something, say something, right?
Right.
Because what we do see, and speaking of major cities and the kinds of bullying that used to happen, there was a situation, I think it was back in New York, where there was a woman who was attacked in broad daylight in the middle of the day, and there was a ton of people that just passed by and let it happen, and no one intervened.
Right.
And that became a famous, I think, psychological study too, where they looked at that. I forgot the name of that study, and kind of but there was a lot of concerns after that about bystanders and the bystander effect.
Right. And there was take a segue real quick. There was an episode on Seinfeld, a while back, and they went to a town that was a very beautiful town where everyone cared about one another. So Seinfeld and his friends go to this town, and they see a mugging take place, and they didn't do anything. And so the police officer goes over to them, and he says, well, how come you didn't help? He's like, we're not going to get involved. Well, here, that's a law. That's a rule. You can't do that. You can't just watch something happen. You have to do something. So we have to get back to a community of actually doing something and being involved.
Yeah, he's like, I'm innocent.
Right, but you're
I'm
not
innocent.
But you're not
Right?
innocent.
I'm a bystander.
He's watched. I was going to
the
say
very definition of
he
bystander
is an expert on this
innocent.
show.
Jerry.
Yes.
Jerry.
Yes. But you.
Oh, that was a great episode.
It was a great episode.
What was the episode number?
I'm not that good.
He's like season 5, episode 11.
But
I know.
it was like what he's saying is spot on.
Right.
And so it's like
And they got arrested because they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You
The
know?
bystander law.
Yeah.
So we have to take more accountability and look at us globally. You know, how many countries can we go to sometimes and they think differently? You know, they don't have bullying like that. Why? Because as a society, they uphold humanity. They uphold community.
Culture, society.
Right. It's culture. So, but we're an American culture, right? So we have our American leaders, you know, I'm not going to say which ones, but we have American leaders at the highest level who bully everyone, bully reporters, you know, bully their peers, you know, bully the opposing people.
Kofi, let me tell you something. You see this guy? That's Chuck Norris. You know what he hates?
Texas Ranger.
Texas. Yes. Walker, Texas Ranger. Or Lone Wolf McQuaid.
Yes.
Hates bullying.
Yes.
Gives him a roundhouse kick to the face.
Wow.
No, I'm not saying I would do that. In the movies, he would
hurt
do
people,
that.
hurt
All right.
people.
Hey,
Anyways.
you guys got to tell me about this. So in the back, in the control room, they said action pants. Do you know anything about that?
Action pants. Well, I have action pants on. I mean,
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know the
action pants
reference
are.
what are
there.
you guys asking for?
They're gonna
Are you
have to
asking for a roundhouse demonstration. Is that what they're asking for? I don't know.
My roundhouse is going to be a low house.
Hey, we'll take the shins out. Hey,
I'll take a
body's
chin
gonna
out.
come down.
I'll take an ankle out.
There we go. We'll tag team it.
Hey, if you invited me to Zumba, that's what I'd be doing on accident. I'd be like taking ankles out and that stuff. Yeah. But the viewers, apparently they do want you to do a roundhouse right here in the studio.
All right. Well, you know, I've been
Just
not
play,
while
just
I'm here.
play. No, no.
Do that over
Watch
there.
out is all I gotta say. Are we insured?
Yeah. All right,
gotta
but
be
seriously though, we do got to we love our audience, and we have to, whatever our audience wants, we got to try to bring it. And so behind the scenes on Instagram, you know, when we're both out of the way, maybe we could see that roundhouse, Chuck Norris
You
style.
can I don't want to be around.
Just, I need a lot of space.
Hey,
guys.
Give a lot of
exactly.
space.
But the point
So-
is, hey, bullying, no, don't do it, guys.
Right, exactly. You know, we have as a society need to just come back together and and start like Gandhi said. You know, we need to be the light that we want to see.
Well, we got a few minutes left before we move to final word. I did want to ask you guys some questions on this, though, too, real quick. I mean, we've had an amazing discussion tonight, I think, about bullying and trying to tackle these concerns. But I wanted to talk to you, Dr. Rogers, about the laws real quick, too. I mean, you know, when we look at Jacob's law, is that something that I know every state, because kind of, you know, we've been talking about culture, we've talked about solutions, we've talked about different practices, but from a policy perspective too, you know, are these the kinds of things that maybe we need as, you know, education organizations to try to be able to address bullying, to give more leverage, more power? There's the reporting law where it's automatically reported to parents. Any cases, any concerns of bullying, that's what the Jacob's law, you know, you talked about, is tied to. Does that sound like the kind of solution that we might need from a policy perspective? You know, if there are those concerns, you know, is it important that parents find out as soon as possible, reasonably possible, that their child is, you know, potentially being bullied at school?
Well, I think more information needs to go out, you know, before we give parents, you know, information like that, because sometimes when we pull the trigger on giving information without having all the facts, there's unnecessary cause. For again, sense of fear of what could possibly be going on when it could be something else. So I think gathering information first before pushing it out is crucial, because that's the communication piece, and then having some policies and some procedures in place that can happen once it does. Because again, you give information out, but without having any type of protocols or any systemic ways of resolving it, you know, only causes some chaos and confusion.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to ensure parents that there are ways to handle, deal with, explore opportunities, for that. Having support groups, having different ways to have kids come together and model what good behaviors look like. Have students run some of those programs. When I've seen students run some of those programs, very effective because they tell on each other immediately, but they are also very critical of their peers. So they want to see great things happening at their school. So giving and empowering
so you have
students,
peer pressure in a positive direction.
In a positive, absolutely, because they are ambassadors of their school. So it can't always just be adults doing it. It has to be the students getting involved and giving them the power to take over and be that light.
That's a difficult challenge for your peer resource teachers too, because they have to be the ones to empower their students.
Absolutely.
And it's really, if you think about bullying, it's everything stops at the top, comes down. If the attitude that the people you're working with, you can't have conflict resolution like adults. Okay. What happens is it becomes toxic, right? Well, what happens? That just goes downward into the kids and the students, and whether or not whatever's going on at the house, right? But that's what happens, and so you have to reverse it. And so, I think we just solve bullying right now.
I think so.
I'm serious.
I think so too. I think so. I want to give you guys the final word. We got to get there in like one more minute. We'll give you guys the final word. But a parent did ask in the chat. They said it would be nice to know the criteria, which we did discuss earlier. But when it comes to the criteria for bullying and solutions and things like that, we tried to address a lot of them on the show tonight. I think a lot of really good points and discussions as part of this discussion. But when it comes to bullying, a lot of times what we see is that for it to be identified as something that's bullying, it has to be ongoing, chronic, more than one incident, typically. But you also look at, as Dr. Rogers said earlier, you look at the severity, you look at the intent behind those things. Because even if it is a one-time incident, okay, what prompted it? And so, knowing that, I think as a parent, hopefully that could be empowering. And so thank you, Jennifer, for your comment as well. But there are different things that can be done. And as Dr. Rob mentioned too, we also have, ways to report concerns. And I think probably one of the biggest things that can be done is talk to your children, have those conversations. How did your day at school go when you pick them up, or, at the dinner table? And so, I'm a former administrator. That's a lot of times how some of those concerns are raised to parents. A mom or dad or guardian might call me up and say, hey, I was at the dinner table last night talking to my child and they mentioned this happened at school today, or I picked them up from school and they mentioned this. So have those conversations and then make sure to don't let it go. Make sure to reach out to the teacher, reach out to the site administrator, and let's get those things addressed because they do affect students. And so, gentlemen, final word. Who would like to start us off?
I'll go.
All right, here we go.
First, I want to just piggyback a value add to what you said about the dinner table thing. Being the equity person, defining what that dinner table looks like is different for other folks, for a lot of people. I grew up in a dual parent home where my mother was always home. So yes, there was dinner waiting for me when I got home. But every parent and every student doesn't have that opportunity to do that. So looking at creating space for having conversations. If it's not at dinner time, when can we agree that we're going to check in with one another as a student or a child-parent relationship? Because it could be a guardian, it could be foster home, it could be a grandparent, it could be a host of different choices. But when is there a check-in time for those type of things? But going back to my final word, again, just want to talk about Jesse Jackson for a second and looking at, again, his life and his legacy. He did some amazing things in a time period that was so different than today. But one of the things that I learned was he empowered us as citizens to step out and make those choices and make those changes. And one of the things I learned from him was that I didn't have to have a label of a politician to advocate. I didn't have to have a label of any type of anything to make a change. So look at yourself, make that change, and ask yourself, what would be best for you, and then you implement those things for others. That's my final word.
Wow. Well said. Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Tony G, good luck following up on that.
You said you wanted me to go first.
Here we go. Here we go. Well, I was going to say everything he said. And then he just
Hey, you sound like a student just now, by the
I
way.
really was, though. See? Oh, now I'm getting bullied.
Hey.
See?
I was going to say that, not to bully, not to.
I
Right
apologize.
there. Now I've been embarrassed.
I apologize.
No, I'm kidding. I would just say.
Hey, I'm giving you a cookie afterwards.
Hey,
riding
it's
him back
all
to
good.
kindness.
It's all good. I'm going to be happy in about 30 seconds.
Right.
But we got to talk about conflict resolution, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Staff, work your feelings out with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Principals, all levels of everything. Everyone's got to learn how to kumbaya.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I agree.
And then the kids will kumbaya some.
Right.
Not all of them, but you'll get some.
Right. I
Right?
agree. That's a good word.
There we go.
All right. And I do just want to mention at home, we practice what we preach on this show. So afterwards, we are going to have a restorative circle regarding the bullying that just occurred over cookies.
Yes.
We're circling.
Yes.
All right. So, hey, listen, we talked about, bullying on the show tonight. And again, the data is clear. It's not just a discipline issue. It's not just a school improvement issue. It's not just a leadership issue. It really is a cultural issue too. We talked about culture, and you can have an impact on culture. When we look at historically how things have been, when it comes to, promoting bullying and the kinds of things that we've seen in the media and portrayals of that, we got to change all of that, right? And as Dr. Rogers mentioned, we are the leaders who can do that, each and every single one of us, and students can be leaders to do that as well. And so, Tuesday again was Random Acts of Kindness Day, and this week is Random Acts of Kindness Week. So we do want to encourage you to try to do that. Try to, engage in a random act of kindness, whether it's a card that you send somebody, a thank you message, or opening a door for someone. Bigger tips. Yeah.
Pay for somebody's coffee that's in front of you.
Pass it forward.
Pass
right?
it forward. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take you guys paying for coffee and tips for me too. So
Absolutely.
This played. But, again, culture really is consistency. Culture, leadership can change this. But at the same time, students, you're the ones on the ground there. You have the biggest impact when it comes to, impacting the experience of other students on campus and in classrooms. And so try to do your best, do your part to show random acts of kindness too, and to try to counter bullying and to not actually be a bystander, to try to, see something, say something, right? And also, if you do experience bullying, make sure to report it to parents or guardians or school officials so that it can be addressed. All right, that is our show tonight. Dr. Rogers, Tony G, thank you guys so much for amazing conversation.
Well, I'm glad to be back.
Episode 21.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're 21.
Episode 21. And who do we have next week again? Just a friendly
We
reminder.
have Tracy Noriega. I'm going to be announcing her all week because, again, I want people to show up and show out because Tracy Noriega is going to bring the heat. So, again, next week, Tracy Noriega, she's Director of Equity in AXA. It's going to be a great show.
And also check out the podcast that I mentioned. We do go over leadership. We go over trauma-informed practices, lots of different things. It's a 2-part series. It's on my Instagram, so make sure to check it out there. And it's the Classroom Narratives podcast. Also, anything coming up that we want to plug?
Plugging Retro Pie Pizza, Manteca, California.
Nice.
Mix Mike.
Mondays. What time?
7:30 start. But if you're an artist, 7 p.m. be there. Sign up list.
Do they get slices of pizza for this?
That we'll have to work out. It depends on how good you are. I mean, if you're that good, they'll give you a whole large, I'm sure. But you got to be Miles Lima good.
Well, how am I supposed to show up then and make pizza disappear?
Well, we're going to have to talk about that. We're going to have to talk about that.
I'll just play with you. Check that out. Amazing stuff that you're doing. And then also Dr. Rogers. I mean, there's a book here.
Yes. Again, my book is coming. My second book is coming out. My Voice is My Power. It's a children's book coming out in March. I'll have more information on upcoming shows. My Voice is My Power. coming to you real soon. Talks about bullying a lot also in there too, and how can we help students help themselves.
All right, then last plug from me too. Make sure to check out this book right here, More Than Principles by Robert Hinchliff. I'm in that book as well as some of the most amazing educators across the country. You got to get yourself a copy of that book. That's perfect for staff.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Gets rid of bullies. Biceps.
Bullies and biceps.
Okay, we're talking about that tattoo off the air after the show, right? You want to know more about that.
Behind the scenes.
There we go. Hey, thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care.